Order the Town of Lake Clark Shores regular town council meeting for December 10th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Here, excuse me, Mayor Gregory Freebold.
Here.
Vice Mayor John Maples.
Here.
President Pro Tem Bridget Keating.
Present.
Councilmember Taylor Materio.
Here.
Councilmember Christy Mossbach.
Here.
Okay, thank you. If we could all stand for a moment of silence and the invocation from Pastor Stan. Tonight, we want to significantly remember the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office deputies who were killed in the line of duty. Corporal Luis Paez, Deputy Sheriff Ralph Butch Waller, and Deputy Sheriff Ignacio Dan Diaz. Chief, didn't you tell me that one of those individuals worked with you in Palm Springs?
Yes, Diaz.
Yeah. And we also want to remember the souls of the individuals who were shot down needlessly in downtown Lake Worth last evening. May perpetual light shine upon them. Pastor?
A psalm for giving grateful praise, even in the midst of tragedies. Let's look to the Lord. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you continue to watch over each and every one of us. And Father, we would pray for your divine intervention. Give us wisdom and knowledge that we might accomplish your will. Bind us together in unity and in harmony in the name of thy precious and holy Son. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Pastor.
Okay, once again, welcome everyone. We're going to have audience comments at the moment. Tim, you're up front and center.
Tim Daughtry, 1410 Keller Road. So I mentioned this before. I really would love it if we would really start looking at the dollars we're spending more carefully. I think there's monies that are being spent unnecessarily. And when I see in the last meeting talking about hiring a media consultant in a small town of 1,500 houses, I think that's over the top and we don't need to be spending money on something like that. And there's other issues too, which I've brought up from time to time. And we were talking also about tagging Lake Clark Shores with some sort of logo or something that stands for our town. And Bob Chahoob, who was a member of this town council for many, many, many years, I heard him mention many times, well, not many times, but sometimes, he talked about Lake Clark Shores as being the jewel of Palm Beach County. And I think that would be something would be well worth our looking into as something that we can tag our town with, okay? And also represents the many years of service that Bob gave to this town council and continues to do in this town, and also with the barbecue and the other events that he serves food in. The bridge. Okay, it's nice to see work being done on the bridge, but there is traffic control issues at the head of the lake, okay? Thanksgiving week, there was two really, really, really bad accidents on Forest Hill Boulevard. And we really need to spend some time on traffic control up there. There's a lot of blind spots with no signals to control people coming in to Westlake Drive. And there's a lot of blind spots, and it's going to lead to more accidents and more problems, specifically at that intersection. But I come in quite a bit of time late in the evening, and it's dangerous crossing over and getting into Westlake from Forest Hill going south. It is. And I've had problems also with the traffic light before it was closed down for the bridge construction. And then road paving. We need to move forward with the road paving. We really do. We have put septic to sewers on the back burner because we're not looking for money from the legislature this year about that. So we need to move forward with that promptly. We need to. The roads, especially on Pine Tree, especially the intersections, are falling apart, and we need to move forward. We need to move forward promptly on that. It's long past the time that we did something with that. The last time I remember us actually topping our roads, and we did slurry paving, I remember, I believe 2006. So that's 18 years. That's a long time ago. We need to spend some time with investing in resurfacing all of our roads that have not been serviced up to this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other audience comments at this moment? Okay.
And
Do we have anything emailed or written in?
No.
No? Okay, very good then. For approval of agenda,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion for consent,
So moved.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to presentations. We have our new representative for District 89 here, Representative Deborah Tendrich. Come right up, and it's nice to see you. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Tendrich, and I am your newly elected state representative, and Lake Clark Shores is in my district. So one thing I want to ask you is for you to let me know what you need, because I can do my job better if you communicate with me. My office is located right down the street in the Truist Plaza on Forest Hill and Florida Mango. So I'm actually right here in Lake Clark Shores, close to home for each and every one of you. But my goal here tonight is just to make sure that you know who I am, that I'm accessible, that you can reach me, that I really want to work with each and every one of you to make sure that we have a good quality of life here in Lake Clark Shores and throughout the county and the entire state. Education, healthcare, affordability, property insurance, just making sure that we actually fight for some appropriations to meet some of your needs that would take the financial strain off of each and every one of you by me going up to Tallahassee and actually fighting for your needs and funds so it doesn't come out of your pocket. These are things that I really want to champion and work with you on. Another thing that I want to let everyone know is voting isn't the end of your job as constituents either, because once I go to Tallahassee and there's issues that come up that are important to you, they actually follow through and we can actually get the work done a lot better, is if I can reach out to you and ask you to also help amplify my voice. And so I'll give you an example. When they were trying to build on Jonathan Dickerson Park, the pickleball courts and tear down the parks, we rallied together and we fought and we reversed that decision. These things can happen that would actually protect each and every one of you, and working together with the community to make those things happen. One of the things I want to start doing is advocacy workshops so you can help me advocate for your backyard, and I think we'll be able to get a lot more done is if we actually work together and stay engaged and involved together for that. Working with each of the council members, and actually I was on my way here and Mike O'Brien from the IFF wanted me to tell you hi. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that you do have a champion. I'm going to work tirelessly for each and every one of you. This isn't, these issues are not partisan issues. These are people issues. They affect every single one of our neighbors. And, I just want to make you know that I'm accessible. I can give each and every one of you my cell phone number. I'll say it right now if you have your cell phones out. My legislative cell is 561-307-1997. And that's actually going directly to me. And so you can contact me directly, or you can reach out to the office as well, which is right here. We're open 9 to 5. But I ultimately just want to hear from you. I'll be here for if you have any questions or if you want me to follow up with you on certain concerns you have on the state issues. And if not, then I can help you navigate some constituent, concerns that you might have.
Do we
Thank you.
have any questions from council for?
Congratulations on your election.
Thank you so much. Yeah, last time I was here, I was talking about Teachers Giving with my nonprofit to let you know we were surprising teachers with turkeys. So I'm here in a different capacity today.
As for, you use the words our backyard. Well, that's our literal concern is our lake, which is our backyard.
Yes, so if you want, we can definitely set up a time for us to talk and see what we can do and work together to take care of that.
Thank you.
But yeah, we have Audrey Piedra. You probably know her. She was on previous reps, district aide. And right here I have Joey. He is our legislative aide. So get used to his face because he's also going to be working on those appropriations and those bills that are going to benefit each and every one of you.
Anybody else?
Excited to work with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, council member.
Can we take a quick picture?
Absolutely.
Oh, I would love that.
Yes. Can you go down? I got a little cold, so I'm gonna stay here.
It's okay. I do have my vitamin C.
But Deborah has my number. She's gonna call me when she has any questions up in Tallahassee. So don't forget that, Deborah.
Can you stand behind us?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You can still be.
It's 6 feet away.
Oh, please do.
Please join me.
Keep me busy.
I was trying to get out of the picture.
Oh, thank you so much.
I like that picture with me on top.
We love to say
Well, we're gonna do it again. We have a swearing in. So
Thank you again, Representative Tendrich. Okay,
thank you, Representative.
next we will have a swearing in of Police Officer Martin Chris Concepcion. Mr. Scheck?
Sounds like another photo op.
If you'll come and stand there at that microphone, and I will read the oath and you can repeat it after me.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
do it in sections. And if you would raise your right hand, I state your name,
I, Martin Concepcion,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and the government of the United States
and of the state of Florida
and of the state of Florida,
against all enemies, domestic or foreign,
and against all enemies, domestic and foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
loyalty, and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and that I am entitled to hold office
and that I'm entitled to hold office
under the Constitution of the United States
under the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Florida,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
all of the duties of the office
all of the duties of the office
of law enforcement officer
of law enforcement officer
for the town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida,
for the town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida,
upon which I am about to enter, so help me God.
upon which I am about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Signed the oath yet?
Yes, he did.
I did.
Okay, so
This
then
is ceremonial.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, I'm gonna.
Thank
put
you.
with
Welcome to the town of Lake Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Field.
And all
Us
the
again.
officers, please come in there. Our new chief, should everybody, come on in, chief, both chiefs. I'm gonna go to my favorite spot.
I'm going to give this copy to Mary.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I don't want to.
Will you give that to Mary when you go back in?
Officer Dominguez. You gotta get him. So, Joey, make sure you get my good side, please.
Come on, you gotta get in here. There we go. All right, no fight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, 1 out of 4.
Okay,
All right, no more exercise.
no more pictures yet. Okay, so we have no quasi judicial proceedings, no public hearing. We will move on to unfinished business. We'll have the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-01, prohibiting any unreasonably loud, excessive, unnecessary, or unusual noise from the operations of vessels within the town. Mary?
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, amending sections 34-40 definitions, 34-43 noises, unnecessary and excessive prohibited, 34-45 maximum permissible sound levels, and 34-37 exemptions of Article 2 noise of Chapter 34 nuisances and noise, imposing additional noise pollution and exhaust regulations on vessels pursuant to sections 327.602 Florida statutes to prohibit any unreasonably loud, excessive, unnecessary, or unusual noise from the operation of vessels within the town, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, for staff presentation, Mr. Lobello.
Thank you. As you know, this is our second reading, so we already discussed this last month. And this originated because we've had some complaints about jet skiing, doing tricks and doing flops in the waterway, making and staying there for hours at one location. Some of the jet skis I've noticed myself, have been modified, so they're definitely are much louder than a normal jet ski. Last meeting, Christy had a great question to research. Is there any unexpected consequences? A regular jet ski, if it's just joyriding, will that hit the dBAs, the decibel levels? We don't believe so. We gave you some documentation there. 50 feet away, a regular jet ski is typically only 70 to 75 feet, 75 dBAs. So we believe this ordinance will do something to move those jet skis to areas that are not, we don't want to write tickets. We just want to move these jet skis to where there's less homes and less disturbances, because where it's happening right now is right in the middle of a residential area and it's disturbing their quality of life.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have audience comments. Come right up. Yes, sir. Just give your name, rank, and I'll make sure all of you get a chance to talk. Give us your address and your name and all that good stuff, and welcome.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Nazeski. I'm just over the Keller Bridge, so I share waterways with Lake Clark Shores. I'm a third generation resident here. My grandmother broke ground and built a house here on this wonderful lake in 1971. I've spent my summers on this lake fishing, boating, and found my true love of jet skiing at an early age right here in Lake Clark Shores. Because of this lake, I've become a professional at my craft, and I've literally been all over the world. I've been ranked first in the United States in the pro class and second in the world. I've lived in Australia, performing at SeaWorld, performed shows for Red Bull, multiple music videos, and the Super Bowl fan zone, and recently hosted nearby in Miami. Jet skiing has taken me to Lake Baikal in Russia, and just recently performed in front of the King of Morocco, winning the Grand Prix event.
Nice.
I owe a lot of it. Sorry, I owe a lot of this amazing. I owe a lot of this amazing community and group of people. Owe a lot to you guys. While I really find time to practice or train these days, when I do at our local LCS ramp, I cannot express how many people stop on boats, observe from the ramp, and all with their phones out. Kids think I'm way cooler than I actually am. While at the ramp, you can find myself raking weeds out from the launch ramp area, picking up trash, helping residents hook their boats up that don't want to get their feet wet, and I can even say I plugged a tire at the ramp for someone else. I feel that it's extremely unfortunate our respectful group of small riders residents are being singled out with the many pressing dangerous issues at hand. I'm all in for making Lake Clark Shores a better place. The real issue is the boats and wave runners flying through our no wake zones. Last Sunday, I saw an 18-foot flats boat flying through our canal with 2 young men creating a ton of wake driving dangerously. Later that night, a group of sit-down jet skis went by at literally Mach 3 with straight pipes, super loud exhaust. After recently testing with a decibel meter, we found that we are indeed within the Florida State Statute 327.65. So we are within the legal Florida State statute. I come to you in hopes we will continue to follow our state laws on our public waterways that we all enjoy so much. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, come on up.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So my name's Anthony Vitnall. I've been a resident here in Lake Clark Shores for about 2.5 years. I purchased a home on Pine Tree Drive, 8319, for the sole purpose of being able to pursue my sport of freestyle jet skiing and live on the lake and the water.
What's your address, sir?
8319 Pine Tree Lane.
Okay.
Again, I selected to purchase on this lake purely so that I could pursue my passion. I feel singled out in this, you know, that we're being called disrespectful, which is absolutely not true. We're very respectful. We never ride at crazy hours, right? Like the Florida statute says that at 8 in the morning, I can be out on my jet ski. I am not. On a Sunday morning at 8 a.m., I am not out on that jet ski. The complaints that we have received are at 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening on a Friday or a Saturday night.
Mhm.
Now, I feel that that is reasonable time for someone to enjoy this beautiful lake that we have, right? Again, I am not doing it at 8 o'clock in the morning, which I would totally find disrespectful. But at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night to make a little bit of noise to enjoy the beautiful lake that we have and that we all spend so much money to enjoy. Now, what I find really interesting, and I hope that we can talk through this, is my understanding of the Florida statute, and I'm not a lawyer, but if the Florida statute that's referenced is 327 section 60. Within that, section 2, which is referenced in the ordinance, it says that, I'll paraphrase, but except that a county or municipality may not enact, continue in effect, or enforce any ordinance or regulation. And there's a list of regulations that they can't enforce. One of those is discriminating against personal watercraft. And we heard the reference to personal watercraft, so we're discriminating against personal watercraft. But more importantly, G says regulating engine or exhaust noise except as in the provision 327.65. Now, if we look at 327.65, which is obviously referenced in the ordinance, it says that within 50 feet of the vessel, 90 decibels. Now, you heard Chris Anazeski just share that we tested today, and we are well below that level. Interestingly, while I was at the ramp today, I had my decibel meter, and there was a dog barking that was 85 decibels at one of the waterfront properties. In addition to that, landscaping crews that are always up and down and throughout our properties are in excess of 80 decibels. So should this ordinance pass, I will be coming and filing a motion to make sure that nobody is allowed to have a landscaping crew that is in excess of 80 decibels. Because if we're going to discriminate against the jet skis, why can jet skis not be more than 80 decibels, but landscaping crews can? So I come here respectfully asking that this motion, I don't know the right words, but gets thrown out because it is unlawful based off my understanding of the Florida statute that says we are not able to impose any other restrictions on engine noise other than those that are laid out, which is 90 decibels at 50 feet, which we are more than happy to submit to any additional testing of to make sure that we are in compliance. Thank you very much. I
Just
appreciate it.
before you go, the ordinance does not say jet skis. The ordinance says vessels.
Vessels.
Yes,
That was the
but-
word he
but-
used,
but
but
Joseph,
this is the legal terminology because we're not attorneys either. But we do have one up here and we're going to turn to him real quick for his opinion. Because I've long said, I know this is the first meeting you've been to. I think you're my neighbor. You don't know me, but I know you. That's never a good thing. But I've always said the jet skis have as much right to the waterways as any other watercraft. They do. It's no doubt. So it's the word vessel in it.
And I was just
Not
giving you
jet
the
ski.
background.
no,
jet-
I know, but
The jet ski is what people have come to us, and this is why we do this
Mm-hmm.
exercise, because now you folks have shown up, and I agree. There's reasonable hours, reasonable times, but there has to be some compromise within that area there in terms of modifications of any vessel, whether
Oh,
it's a boat,
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
jet ski, my grandson's little water boat that goes, 100 miles an hour up and down the lake by remote control.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, what's your take on this, sir?
He's
That's what
actually-
this will come down
He's
to.
actually absolutely correct. And the ordinance says no person shall operate or give permission for the operation of any vessel on the waters within the town in such a manner as to exceed the maximum sound level of 90 dBA at a distance of 50 feet.
Right.
So if they are at 90 or less, they are not in violation of
violation.
this ordinance.
So then you would not be affected.
The ordinance, as it's written, there was trying to impose some additional statement about from the property line. being-
That's dealing with all other noises. The noise for the vessels has to be in compliance with the statute. And the statute specifically says no more than 90. And so if you are 90 or less, you are not in violation of the ordinance.
Okay, so why is there the first part?
Because this particular ordinance deals with all noises in the town, and those apply to the other noises. You're absolutely correct. The statute does not let us lower that decibel level for the vessels on the water. So we have to enforce only above 90 dBA.
That's great to hear. Can I ask a question then? Why are we trying to impose the limit of 70 to 80 decibels? Because literally, a
We're not.
lawnmower is more than 80 decibels. So if we impose that,
We're not anything. It's only over 90.
no.
No,
in
we're,
the ordinance
for
it's
the
written-
vessels. He's speaking of section 3445, which we are not changing
Okay.
as it relates to other sound. It says, except as otherwise provided or exempted in this article, no person shall generate or cause to be generated from any source sound which when measured at the receiving property line
Right.
exceeds, and then it has 1, 2, and 3. And it's based on time frames. That's currently our ordinance today.
Mhm.
That does not apply to the vessels.
Right.
Because the statute says we can only enforce above 90 at 50 feet.
Correct.
Fantastic.
That's correct.
So that's good news.
That's fantastic news. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We're trying to work with everybody here. We all have a right to the waterway.
Yeah.
The jet skiers, everybody really. So we're just trying to make it, as enjoyable there as we can.
Absolutely.
You're the trick guy?
We're all there.
Well, I can tell you this. I've seen you, whoever's on the stand-up jet ski, it's every time you land, my back hurts, my knees hurt. I'm like, oh, that's spectacular because it really is. And I will tell you, 95% of the jet skis and boaters at the boat ramp have boaters etiquette. There's courtesy. You guys don't take up too much space. They don't take up too much space. But you have to admit, between boats and jet skis, there are some issues. And I'm not saying it's you guys.
There is.
And there's always going to be some bad actors that come from, and what they're doing now that the bridge is closed is they can't race down the big lake anymore. So what they're doing is, because I've been born and raised here too, and we call that the Keller Canal. Once you get past the C-51 into the Lake Clark Shores area, and go onto Lake Osborne. That's the Keller Canal. So, and I was in my boat one time when a jet skier came around a blind corner and took almost, me and my two grandsons were on the boat. So there are some issues.
Oh,
And we were doing more enforcement, because I believe that's, and it did work for a while. And we're always exploring that as well, because sometimes you have to have that. There's, correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie Chief, there is no speed limit on the big lake. So you can go as fast as you want there. You know,
we can enforce the speed limit on lakes.
no, there's no speed limit.
There isn't one posted.
We don't.
Only in,
we don't-
you can only enforce it in the no wake zones. And it has been a problem because I can stand on my dock and watch them
Oh,
go
easy.
flying by, especially as the sun is setting and they're trying to get back to their boat ramp, which either, I don't think many of them that don't really live in Lake Clark Shores use our boat ramp for that. They're either putting over there at Cloud Lake or they're putting it in Lake Osborne. And then they're making that race to get back before they lose their daylight. So-
That's the other issue is at night.
Yeah.
There are a lot that are going, because it's a half hour before sunset and a half hour before sunrise. They're
Yeah.
supposed to be out. And I see them and I hear them.
Oh, yeah, me too.
well,
Yeah.
Sometimes after midnight.
And it's not all of them, just like anything.
No,
It's like
It's
the-
not
that's
everybody.
not the rule.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what was your name again? I'm sorry.
Anthony Vitnell.
Anthony, thank you for coming
Thank you.
tonight, you folks, and sharing what's important to you. I wanted to ask you, did you guys happen to test the jet skis if you're running them together simultaneously in the lake at the same time?
No, we didn't. We only had one jet ski out there.
Which is what I figured. And
Is-
I figured most of the time when it would become an issue, if you've got multiple skis running at a high level during the same, kind of running hard, I think that would elevate the sound past probably what's allowable. So not that this ordinance affects that at all, but just something to think about while you're out there and you've got multiple people running. It's probably like, probably getting a little excessive or loud. And maybe it's one of those things where it's like, hey, maybe we'll come back later or whatever. It's just to kind of have everybody work together so you guys continue to use the lake and enjoy it. As you said, it's a beautiful part of quality of life. It's part of the deal. But as you think about being a great neighbor and, there's two guys already out there running hard and then another guy shows up and then we've got three skis running. And while individually perfect, two, three for sure, it's really excessive. And so just something to think about. But Anthony, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for sharing and asking great questions.
And
thank you. We understand
Thank you.
that there's more than one side of the story and we've only got one side of the story. And now you've actually got more information that even though you're doing your tricks and you enjoy the lake, you're still within the limits. So
And-
it's not going to affect.
Do you want to speak, sir?
And in addition
You're okay.
to,
Good. Okay. I'm on the lake quite a bit and I see you guys out there doing your stuff. It is impressive.
Oh.
For sure.
Let me tell you,
Oh, go ahead.
so I live on the lake down near the Forest Hill end. And when I hear you, and I can hear you, I come running out to my yard to watch because I get a kick out of watching you all. Come on down to my end. You'll have a receptive audience.
In addition to the language which I read, which states the 90 dBA level, there's also under 3447 an exemption, and it's subparagraph 8, and the exemption is noise resulting from the operation of vessels when operated in compliance with the decibel limitations of Florida Statute 327.65. So it's in there twice, actually.
I just want to echo everyone's
Go ahead.
sentiments that we appreciate you all being here. I too am one of the people on the docks with my 4-year-old who thinks you are probably just as cool as you actually are out there. And I know it's not easy to come here and get into it, but I think this really shows that the process works and we appreciate you being here to express your side of the story.
John, good?
Good.
Good?
No, good.
Okay, all right. Thank you again. So now we need some action here. Who's going to make a motion to accept ordinance 2024-01?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now for unfinished business, we're going to have further discussion on proposed septic to sewer project vote. Joe?
Thank you. As you know, we continued this from last meeting. And what I did was I highlighted new information in bold. And as I mentioned last time, and I think I need to mention it again because it's that important, grant funds are available for septic to sewer and dredging projects, but it's very, very competitive in Tallahassee. If the council is not supportive of those endeavors, grant fundings will go to other communities. And that was what was mentioned by our lobbyists, and I truly do believe that. So what are the updates to the 4 options? The first option, as we discussed, was keep the status quo. You continue to talk to your constituents about this major endeavor of septic to sewer and lake dredging projects. We also added the caveat that we're going to look at paving Pine Tree and other roads in the community that need paving. We're not going to wait for the septic to sewer monies, possibly. We're just going to start discussing that, and we're going to discuss that later on the agenda. So what's new here is also this option doesn't preclude you from adding a vote later after the grants has been awarded. So when a grant is awarded, that doesn't mean you actually have to do the project. You have an application, not an application, actually the contract to sign, and you have years to spend that money. So even if we're awarded a grant, that does not mean you can't have a vote later. And you'll know all the variables after you know what the grant has been approved. It could be a 90-10, it could be a 70-30. You don't know actually what kind of funding you're going to receive. So there's a lot of variables about having a vote right now. The second option is having a ballot question, and we talked about that, at all 2,500 registered voters would vote for that, even though it's only affecting 700 residents. We talked about how much would it cost. So we did some research, and our understanding, if there is a municipal election on the ballot, it's minimal cost. But like now, we didn't have an election, it would cost obviously in the tens of thousands. So that's giving you some guidelines there. Option 3 hasn't changed. This is pretty much what we did. It's similar in 2005. We would solicit 1 vote from all the 700 residents that's going to be affected by this, and we would handle it here. And last one is, and the new information is hire a professional consultant. They do this for a living, but this would cost tens of thousands of dollars. So we did call one surveying company. So that's the updated information, and for you guys to discuss and guide staff. Thank you.
Hey, who wants to open it up? Christy, we'll start down there with you.
Okay, thank you. I would immediately dispense with choice 2 and 4. I think 1 or 3 are viable options. I will make a pledge to everybody in town right now. I'm looking at the camera. I will not take a vote to do septic to sewer if 2 things have not happened. If we don't have a significant grant, and if we haven't had a straw poll. That said, I think we are a long way away from septic to sewer at this point, because grant money is not flowing, but I know Representative Tendrich is going to take care of that for us.
Yes.
No pressure.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think, again, I think option 1 is a very good option. And again, I want to assure everybody who's watching this live and watching this again next week on YouTube, I personally will not vote yes for septic to sewer if you haven't had a chance to have a straw poll.
Okay.
Well, I think
Taylor?
Councilmember Mosbach just stole my response. I feel pretty much the same. And I think option 1 is really the only viable option. My fear, 2 and 4 are 100% out. My fear is that with option 3, we would indicate that we are not committed if funding in the future came up, and now that's on the record, which we discussed with our lobbyist as well. We wouldn't want to eliminate the opportunity for future funding if it should come up. And of course, we would go back to the town and get their input at that point, because I think this council has been very agreeable to the idea of having town input on this matter.
Bridget?
I agree with sentiments of number one. I think it's fiscally responsible for us to find the funding before we ask the question, because there's many variables. Once we have the funding, like Town Manager LaBelle alluded to, we don't have to move forward. We can get the straw poll, and if we choose to move forward, we choose to move forward. If we don't, we don't. But it'll help us pose the question. We can't, right now, there's no simple way to pose it, because you pose it one way, you're gonna get one answer, and you pose it another way and you get another answer. So I think the most fiscally responsible to the citizens and for the project is to let's pursue getting grant money, and then let's come up with a reasonable or a more informative ballot question from that, once we have all the variables and what it's going to cost us and what it would cost you. You know, because right now we're stabbing in the dark, and I think that's being irresponsible. We should put the vote out now.
Mr. Naples?
So the question I would like to present to this council is just a thought. First, my thoughts is that Joe has placed the septic to sewer conversion on hold, meaning no new dollars are being spent on getting the project shovel ready. And that's simply because the direction of the council hasn't been very clear. And with that being said, residents are being concerned with a couple of things. First, the road's not being paved, and for a long time the roads weren't being paved simply because, hey, we've got this septic to sewer on the table, and you know, blah 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 blah. We don't want to be doing multiple roads. We pave the road one, we put the septic in, we got to pave the road again. But it's clear that we're going to move forward with paving roads. But with that being said, I think it's important that we have direction from the town as it relates to, hey guys, if we're going to do this straw vote, it's not about how much it's going to cost. It's about, hey, we need to get shovel ready, and there needs to be money spent in order to do that. And if we're going to spend the money to get the project shovel ready, we want to make sure we have the buy-in from the town to say, hey, we support septic to sewer, and whatever it takes to get us shovel ready, to get the grants, to get all the other money, then yes, as a town, we want to move forward with that. Because obviously no one here is going to vote for anyone, you know, spending their life savings on a septic to sewer conversion. That's not what we're aiming for. We're looking to get as much money from the state and from the federal government to fund the septic to sewer. My biggest concern for this town is that any monies that are spent moving forward to continue to have us ready in these different phases for the septic to sewer conversion, if the town is not in support of that, then we need to kind of take a step back, irregardless of the cost. So I am of the argument that I would like to move forward number 3, 2 and 4 is off the table, but giving a straw vote, because I would like to have the buy-in of the town, not so much as to what they're going to spend, but hey, do you want us to get shovel ready? It will cost money to get us shovel ready through these phases, but that way we can prepare to receive money from for these grants and different things like that. Because in order to receive the money, not only do you need to have the support of the council, but you have to have these projects shovel ready in order to get the money. And right now, no money is being spent on getting the project shovel ready at this moment. So my vote is to go with option 3 for not a price concern, but more of a, do you want us to continue to prepare this town for septic to sewer and move forward in that direction? For me, that would be the vote.
I thought we were shovel ready.
Yeah.
Not for everything.
One phase.
Yeah, can I correct?
Yes, sir, please do.
Yeah, I agree with mainly most of what John said, but I want to clear the record on one thing. There's one phase that's shovel ready. We call that Micah West. So we have 2 grant applications in, Deborah. One is for a septic to sewer project that is shovel ready. That's Micah West. That's a gravity system. But then the other phases, which is on Micah East and going all the way north to Forest Hill Boulevard and then going north of Forest Hill Boulevard, that's proposed to be a vacuum system. We actually have a grant application for that too, but it says we're not shovel ready because we're honest, obviously. So we have two grant applications. One says we are shovel ready for Micah West, and the other grant application says we're not ready. We're not shovel ready. We're 70% or 80%, whatever the engineer put in there. So we're almost shovel ready on that, but we're just not 100%. So we have two of them out there. So we have one that's shovel ready and we have one out there that's not stating that we're shovel ready.
And Joe, how many phases do we have?
It can be, phases 2, 3 to 5. Phase 1 is done. Let's go over them. Phase 1 is Forest Hill commercial area is done. Phase 2, this is how they said it in the past, is Micah West, which is shovel ready. It's a gravity system. It's all by itself. Everybody should know where Micah West is, right? Those streets. Then those other areas, which is phase 3, 4, and 5, which I just explained, is a vacuum system. So you could look at that as one phase because it's a whole, you can break it up because it is a lot of homes. It's, 500 homes into 3 phases, or you can make it one whole giant phase because it's all a vacuum system that will go through a pump somewhere that we need to set aside an area for a pump building instead of lift stations.
Isn't 3, 4, and 5 basically for Forest Hill Pine Tree?
Yes.
Pine Tree in that little Venetian.
Micah East, yes, all the way north, correct.
And the rest of it's moving north. And also we got Palm Springs North, they're going to be looking to do septic and sewer on their own. They're not being asked. They're just going to do it.
Yeah, we can't control it. Obviously, they're talking to us, but they can decide whatever they want to do in their service
grant
area.
Application, we're still moving forward with that. So we'll soon be ready, shovel ready on 3, 4, and 5.
No, that's the part John is correct. We stalled on that. We're not, we put a hold on that. We're not spending any more money on that because we have one area that's shovel ready. So we have 2 grant applications out. One is shovel ready for Micah West. The others, we just have a grant application for those other phases of 3, 4, and 5, which is not shovel ready.
And what would it take to be shovel ready on that side?
We did have a memo out there, and I'm trying to go from memory, but it was hundreds of thousands to get it complete. I can send out that memo tomorrow morning.
And that would just really take action from us. Do we really need a straw poll for that, or is that something? Do you want a straw poll, or is that something we would just give you direction once if we wanted to do that?
That's correct. I'm waiting for direction from you all.
Is it important to be shovel ready for 3, 4, and 5 if 2 hasn't taken place yet? I would think they would be sequential.
Exactly. I took that action by myself because I thought it was prudent because we already have a section that is shovel ready and the others are not shovel ready, but at 70%. So let's see if we get anything awarded. But if you want to continue with getting those shovel ready, we would have to engage with the engineer again.
So there's no advantage to being shovel ready for 3, 4, and 5 if 2 hasn't been funded and done yet.
Well, I can argue it both ways because obviously if it was shovel ready, maybe both of them would get awarded one year. So you can argue that both ways.
And as far as 3, 4, and 5 go, if 3 is done and 4 and 5 aren't done, are the folks who live in 3 on a sewer system, or do you have to wait for all 3, 4, and 5 to all be done for the sewer to work?
That's an engineering question, but as I said, you have to build, it's not lift stations, it's a pump building. So you have to build a pump building first, and it's a vacuum system. So then you can actually pick a phase of 3, 4, and 5. I think you can do north of Forest Hill, which is 5 first before you do 3. I mean, Charlie heard some of this conversation, so he's shaking his head correct. So that's a choice you can make later, but you have to build the pump building because you can't do a vacuum system without a big vacuum. So you need a big vacuum.
But 3, 4, and 5 could each independently stand alone. You don't have they could be functioning sewer systems without the other 2.
Yeah. Yes, as long as the infrastructure is in, because believe it or not, the vacuum systems, and this is another good point about John and I had this good conversation today. When you do a gravity system, you destroy the whole road. I mean, it's very invasive. It's, you have to dig deep, sometimes 20 feet deep. But when you do a vacuum system, it's not. It's a smaller pipe. you only disturb one half of the roadway. So if you paved a road, you only really have to pave maybe the other half of the roadway, because a vacuum system is not that intensive of construction as a gravity system.
But a vacuum system is not as reliable, is it? Or
That's an engineering question. It is, but it's you ever heard on an airplane when you hear that vacuum? That's what it is. That's a vacuum system. But in the past, they've been less reliable. Today, computers help with valves get stuck with debris in them, and now they before you were guessing where that valve was. Today in vacuum systems with technology, you can pinpoint it quicker. So that's the layman's answer to that question. I'm not an engineer.
We did get pretty clear language from our lobbyists describing that if we had like a vote or something that said definitively this neighborhood, this town does not want this, it could impact what we all discussed as our main legislative priority, potentially, the vacuuming, funding for the vacuuming. So I'm just going to reiterate that if we choose now to go forward with that, that we could severely affect our ability to get money in the future by putting it to paper.
I do agree with that.
Representative Tendrich, I'm going to bring you up to speed on this. I happen to be 15 or 16 years on the Natural Resources and Utilities Committee for the Florida League of Cities. This is not the reason why I was there to begin with. It was another issue that was facing waterfront properties in Florida. And it's true, we have been advised by professionals that we don't want to say no, that we don't want to look for dollars for these projects. There's been audience members here. There's people that will tell you throughout, not just in our community, but other communities, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball. In that case, what's going to happen, and these are strictly my opinions, is the residents of these 702 homes will have to pay full freight, is where that's going to go. So you'll be paying, there is a limit on it. There is an enterprise fund. So it's not like the 702 homes are paying solely for these shovel readies, for these surveys, for the permits, for all these different things.
That's a good point, Mayor.
There is an
not-
enterprise fund. We also have other service areas within our utility. So it's a very complicated situation. It's coming our way. I don't know when. It could be 10 years. It could be 20. I don't see 20, and I don't think they're going to force it on us from a state level, simply because then there may be some pressure to give free money to these. We'll see. That's why we're going to come and see you, so that you can keep us in touch with this. And that's why we go there, so that we can stay in touch with it too. The straw poll that was done in 2005 was not correct. It was done improperly. I wasn't on council at the time, but once we sat down and we were put on notice from the DEP, correct?
Mhm.
That the lake was having troubles, we started to take action, which we needed to do. And that's where this all started. So back in 2005, they let the entire community vote. There's 702 homes that are affected by this, what we're talking about. There's no language for voting right now. We don't have cost. We don't have, I'm not going to say that we're going to just say, are you for sewers or you're against sewers? That's just not logical. You need some information. And even the only person up here it doesn't affect is the vice mayor. He lives on the north side. He already has it, and that's fine. And I'm all for letting the 702 homes that's going to affect take a straw poll, but that still shouldn't sway a good decision to cost the residents to have to pay more money. We have somebody up here, he would be affected by it too, is concerned about the spending. Well, I'm concerned about the spending as I grow older and having to pay maybe 50 instead of 25 or 40 instead of 20, whatever the number may be. But we don't have any numbers right now. And that's why we've been going to Tallahassee for all these years. And in previous years on our committee, our legislative priority have always been number one and number two is septic to sewer. That's through the state. That's not just Lake Clark Shores. And then water quality. versus water quantity. These are two things that are going to really affect the state of Florida in the next 50 years. My point is I'm thinking forward for the future residents as well, to help them control their costs as well, continue to seek money. We have a $10 million grant out there right now to clean the lake, to vacuum the bottom of the lake. We're working very hard to clean it up. It's our backyard, right, Christy?
That's right.
That's what we have here. And you folks that have been here since 1970, you know you've seen the difference in the water quality. Period. It's just how it is. There's no argument. The water quality has changed and it's going to change. So there's really nothing to vote on right now, in my opinion. I think that we continue where we're going. Don't say, no, we don't want it. Is there any update on our $10 million grant?
No.
No? And that's what you do. We've been there. We've been given money. We have been given money. We work hard at going there and seeing everybody. It's just been vetoed every year. I have a feeling we've lately attended a few meetings that this view from the legislature and the governor is going to change, and that there's going to be more openness to the water quality and water quantity in this state, because that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants economic development, but with economic development comes a lot of other factors. And we've had this conversation at the state level and at the local level. If you live on a big piece of property, there's nothing wrong with septic tanks. Nothing in the world. As a matter of fact, I've lived on Lake Clark Shores and Lake Osborne my entire life. I've gone Lake Osborne, Lake Clark, Lake Osborne, Lake Clark. I've always had a septic tank and a drain field. So if you have these big properties, it's not a problem. But when you're got this volume that's around a body of water, and we did a charrette, and it's out there on YouTube.
It is on our.
You go see it and you can watch it, and it's professionals, not council members up here that are residents in the town of Lake Clark Shores. These are professionals that do this for a living, that are giving us their best advice. Just like you have an attorney, a good client follows attorney advice. Just like a good counsel will follow professionals' advice, and we'll come and see you and let you in your office help us in every single way that you can. So I would say that there should be no vote at this time. We need to continue to move forward. I understand those projects are on hold. I don't think that will affect our status, only because we're looking for dollars for that as well. But who knows? You know, the powers that be. I just don't want to say, hey, we have a bunch of money for you, but you guys said no. Guess what? It's going to the people who really want it. And that's what will happen. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from professionals. So that's where I'm at.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know that was the actual discussion item, but don't we really need to be discussing how we're going to move forward with our legislative priority? And then I'm really hoping we can spend a significant amount of time on the paving plan, which comes next on our agenda.
Sure.
But just making sure that we lay out that our legislative priority, as we discussed it, was going to be the vacuuming, not dredging, vacuuming, correct?
Yes.
Of the
Correct.
lake. We all agreed to that, and that's what we should be moving forward with. And that our lobbyist, who we pay to do his job so well and to advise us, made it pretty clear that that's a big if in this upcoming session, and we shouldn't be asking for too much. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. We added, our priorities are the vacuuming, dredging, and also that annexation language change.
So I have
Like,
a
thank you
few,
for bringing that up too.
a few thoughts here, just a few questions. And I think it is important that we do vote on this just to give the town clarity on which direction to move forward, so we can put that to bed so they know how to move forward. But Joe, how long has phase 2 been shovel ready and looking for funding? How many years?
About 5 years.
I would have to.
It's not been that long.
Yeah, I
About
think
5
it's, I
years.
think it's
Yeah.
less than 5 years.
It could be less.
And how much of taxpayer dollars have been spent on getting septic to sewer shovel ready? Because I know there's been grants that's funding a large majority of it, but I know for a fact there's been some taxpayer dollars spent on getting septic to sewer shovel ready. Is that?
It should be very little to none. This is from it's the enterprise.
Fund.
The enterprise funds is, an enterprise fund is basically where the revenues are from the water and sewer revenues that you collect. So that's where we're paying for that study. Because remember, we're going to do this in Seminole Ridge. We're going to do this in Hypoluxo Village. This is not just, 2/3 of our customers are not in our limit. So we're talking about septic to sewer in other areas of our service area. So this is just a lot bigger than this 700 homes. So that's who pays for those studies, is the enterprise fund. It's not coming from ad valorem or property taxes or general fund. Now, indirectly, I'm spending some of my time there, but mainly it's coming.
The enterprise fund is mainly where those dollars.
The $1 million that was already spent is the enterprise fund.
Coming from getting the town septic sewers from the enterprise fund.
Yes, sir.
And then the language for this, and I don't know, maybe Charlie, you can speak to this, but the 702 homes that are listed there on the question there for number 3, the property, I think that is correct. I think they do need a vote. As the mayor said, no, I am on a sewer already, have no skin in this game. I just want to make sure that the people who are not have a voice on whether or not we continue to move forward with septic to sewer has been my stance on that from the very onset, the very beginning. But having direction on whether we move forward for shovel-ready projects, and it sounds like there's no tax dollars ad valorem or tax dollars being spent on that project, is what I'm thinking is important. But I think if staff needs recommendation from town to discuss these options, what I would like to do, and even if it gets voted down, it's okay, but recommend that we make a motion that we move forward with option 3.
Vice Mayor Maples, are you not concerned about the lobbyist recommendation for not putting something to paper, like a vote, and how that might affect us even this session with the money for the vacuuming of the lake or potential future funding? Just what are your thoughts on that?
I am, and really, but my biggest thought there is that the 2 spills that happened in our lake had nothing to do with septic to sewer. We could have all been on, the whole town could have been on sewer, and those 2 spills would have occurred. And ultimately, that was no fault of the town of Lake Clark Shores. So I think that from what we're asking for the state legislator is not so much, hey, we're going to do septic sewer, can you help with? It's more of making the town whole. This is not like, it's like you get in an accident, you sue somebody for liability. Hey, you just want to make them whole and get them back to the beginning, not so much dependent upon another decision that was connected to septic to sewer, if that makes sense. So that's my thinking on that. I feel like the dredging or vacuum of the lake is not tied to septic to sewer, in my opinion, simply because of the 2 experienced very bad, terrible events that the town experienced. Those 2 alone put us in a very different category, just from a place of making the town, getting the money to make the town whole is really just due diligence of taking care of our lakes and our waterways. That's my opinion on that.
I understand what you're describing. My concern is just that wasn't the process that Richard said they would go through. So they will take a vote as a non-firm commitment that we are wanting to, have remittance of the lake issues that we have. That was pretty clearly indicated for him. And so my fear is, like, I can have my personal opinion about it, but if he goes up to Tallahassee and asks for money and they're like, you just voted it down, you don't really care about cleaning up and what the future of the lake looks like and this and that, then we just kind of shot ourselves in the foot. And that was clearly indicated by him. I'm not a lobbyist. He's the one that's going to go up and ask for this money with you guys. So if that was his indication, I don't know why we would actively work against this at this point if the vote isn't going to necessarily get us something that we need, like the funding.
And, I'm not sure that this straw poll is going to happen within this session and this time frame, so that it would even be something that is impacted by what he's able to ask for. I just know that, if we go to Tallahassee and we don't at least get money to vacuum and clean the lake, which I think is like almost a no-brainer because it really was not our fault, then we're still in the same place we've always been, if that makes sense. And so you know, that's really where I'm going with this, and those are my thoughts. It's just that time over the past, I don't want to say 18 years, we've been asking for money for help on this deal, and we've really not gotten anywhere. No pressure.
No, we have not been asking for 18 years.
No,
That's not correct.
Oh, how long have we been asking for money for septic sewer?
Maybe 6 or 7 since we got a letter from the DEP telling us that we have an impaired body of water.
Yeah.
And you can spin it any way you want. You can leave out sentences. I disagree that it is if you vote against this, they will pass you by, period. They will not give it to, first of all, I believe the state doesn't want to give money to affluent communities. They feel like up there, we can afford it. You guys should pay for everything. Why would you want to do that? That's my opinion. And I've been going up there on this committee for a long, long time. We started this once we received the letter from the DEP that we had an impaired body of water. Then they told us, and Mr. Clark could reiterate this, that you did such a good job, your body of water is no longer impaired. So I'm like, okay, well, how does that happen? How does that work? We've met with the high levels of DEP. We've met with the people from the EPA. We've met with the people for financing. This has not been going on for 18 years because what they did before is if you even mention septic to sewer, they'd vote you out and try to get you out. This is what I want to do, is protecting these 702 homes from full cost. And I disagree completely. If we say we don't want it, we're going to be SOL.
So,
and I believe that in my heart of hearts.
So just for clarity, I may have misspoken on 18 years. When did we start asking for money from Tallahassee? Because if this thing got voted down, same process back in 2005, I would assume if we were looking at septic to sewer in 2005, we were asking the state to help us and give funding then.
No,
Was it on council?
In 2005, I saw the documentation for that. It was for the full cost, which was, there was
$9,000 at that time.
There was no grant involved in that.
So so the council has never gone to Tallahassee, I mean, past 6 years per the adjustment, has not gone to Tallahassee and asked for money.
Right.
Well, obviously it wasn't here, but obviously I have a lot of experience from
That's why
other.
I said it wasn't handled properly in the beginning. There was also, Mr. Kulkarni is in the Palm Springs service area. He would never and has never been affected by this, what we're looking at doing. He's at the mercy of the town or the village of Palm Springs. So there's all these little different pockets that 702 homes that are underneath the town of Lake Clark Shores utilities departments are the homes that are affected. And I have a map of everybody in my office, and a majority of those homes are on the water. And how I did get to the, it was the Environmental Resources Committee in the beginning, but then they moved it to utilities and they just switched it around. The reason I was there, Tim, was because they were looking at fertilizer bans. Fertilizers are a big part of the problem. And I told you before, I agree. There should be bans on fertilizers when we don't really need them. But if the population say they want them, whether they're right or wrong, and they have them, and they do, there are places that do have ordinance on them, and it's not a bad thing. So that's the whole history of this. We will go back and we will get exact dates of when this all came about, because I'll tell you a little war story right here. When this came about, how we did this whole CRA from I-95 to Florida Mango. When we sewered that, there wasn't any opposition whatsoever. Do you know why? And we ran sewers down. We had to run sewers to get the CRA, to be able to put restaurants, to be able to put the Dunkin' Donuts, to be able to do certain things. And I told Dan Clark at the time, he goes, you see, there was no opposition. I may have even been the mayor at the time as well. And I said, Dan, that's because it hasn't hit the residents' pocketbook yet. The businesses paid for all of that infrastructure down there to improve our CRA, which we're happy to go over that with you too. And it's been budding. It's growing very nicely. And now we'll have monies to do a lot of the beautification and things of that nature. So it's always been small, steady steps. And we have been awarded dollars, as I said before. They've just been vetoed by the governor. So it's not like we go up there and they're not giving us anything. Our previous legislator was very effective, and we've had others for the delegation from Palm Beach County going on our behalf as well, because they know, and I think most people know it's important. My bottom line, and I make it a point to talk to people wherever you are, they want to talk to me, I'll talk about it. Whether you really want it, you don't want it, whether you want somebody else to pay for it, or you're going to pay half or whatever, I still want their input. I want to know what they're thinking. And that's important as well, because it will affect 702 people. Some will have more money than others. There will be people that are adversely affected financially. That's a possibility. But you just, like I said, just think, if they could have gotten it in 2005 and gotten half of it paid for, you would have had that project done for $5,000 a household. I'm willing to bet right now that 98% of the residents of the town of Lake Clark Shores could stroke a check for $5,000, even if they paid it in 2 payments. If they had to, they could do it. We've gotten funding at a percent on a 20-year. Is it 20 years? We went to, I don't know if you were part, you were part of that
For
meeting.
the low interest loan?
Huh?
For the low interest loan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were part of that meeting up
Yeah,
there.
that-
So we've been getting our ducks in a row without saying, hey, we're going to impose this upon you. So if we're really thinking about the town of Lake Clark Shores and the residents and the 702 homes, because you're going to be affected by it as well, it's good business practice to try to find as much free money as you can. To bury your head in the sand and say, no, I want the residents to decide on this. Yes, they should have a vote to say, but there should be language. There should be something that they can put their teeth into and say, okay, hey, I could go for that, versus it's a yes or no issue. It's not that simple. Come right up to the microphone, please, because you are our representative up there.
I will.
So you wanted to be a state representative. Huh?
I will say that I did get news when I went up there last week that because we actually are going to be operating in a deficit over the next 3 years because we're losing the federal funds from COVID, it's also going to be harder for all the legislators to actually get appropriations and budgets approved. I will say, to my point, when it comes to the constituent advocacy, when I get the appropriations to a committee, having those 702 homes reach out to those on the committee that are going to be voting on that to get it passed, and then having them reach out to the governor and ask for him to approve it, helping me help them as a collective act, that would actually really, really do a lot of good. So what I can do is work with you to actually let you know the phone numbers and emails of the legislators that are actually going to be on the appropriations committee for that bill. And we can then get that out to the residents to help me advocate for their needs too. Because if we don't have that, there's a big chance right now, because we're going to be operating in a deficit, that it won't come to fruition. Then after that, once it's passed, then we can then have those same residents reach out to the governor and ask them not to veto it. And I think together we can potentially move the needle that way. But they kind of let us know that since we're not getting those federal funds and we're operating in a deficit, it's going to be a lot harder for each and every one of us to actually get things passed.
And that's what our lobbyists told us. And plus, you are a freshman.
I am.
Yes. So it's not a bad thing. We understand how things work up there. And it's going to be harder for you to get some of your priorities taken care of in your first year.
Yes, and that's why I really want the support of the community to help amplify my voice as a freshman, and showing that if it's important to the 702 residents enough to make that phone call or email, then that's something to actually take serious. Because what happens is a lot of times these things don't get done because there's not community buy-in or vocal community buy-in. And that's one of the big disconnects I hear. And if we're more engaged with our own, legislation that's going to affect each and every one of us, I do feel that we would have a better chance at getting some of these things done together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So you still don't know what direction to go?
I got a consensus, but there was a motion, so.
Okay. So John, you put that in the form of a motion?
I did.
Could you read me the motion again, please, Mary?
Not really, but.
That's okay.
It
I'm
was,
sorry. Just want to make sure we're all clear.
It was just option.
You had to go with option
Okay.
three.
Go ahead with option 3.
Okay, is
move
there a
forward
second?
with option 3.
So he just wants to move forward, give everybody a talk with option 3. Is there a second? Okay, motion fails. Thank you.
I would like to
Oh.
applaud the vice mayor for wanting to be responsive to the citizens, because I think that's his goal.
Sure. That's everybody's goal up here.
No, but with, there's you could just assure everybody that you won't move forward without a straw poll when the issue is on the front burner. Because I think we all know where you stand. You know, you want to respond to the many phone calls we've all been getting.
I'll tell you another story. This just happened on Saturday night. I'll leave him unnamed because he's very touchy about it. And I don't understand why. If you're not for it, I understand. If you are for it, I understand too. He said, oh yeah, I'm for it. I want it, but I will never get up there and say that. I'm like, what? That's some of the mentality, because there's those that, you know,
issue in this town.
yeah,
It's
It-
the third rail.
it was,
I just want to
Yeah.
go back to making sure that remediation remains our top legislative priority, and
it is,
that that
it is,
and that
It
we're
is.
going to talk about paving next.
It is.
it is. All right, let's move on.
Nice meeting you all. Take care.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Joe, give us an update on Pine Tree Lane Bridge railing options.
Yes, and we're going to show you a picture of what we're proposing, but last meeting, as you know, it was, the consensus was first brought up by Christie, obviously, but then the consensus was to me to go to the contractor and to our structural engineer to see if there's any options to make the railing or the boundary there more aesthetically pleasing. This is what we found in Donna Ross Road. I'm very familiar with this bridge. And as you can see, it's got a mix of rails and concrete because it's all about safety and you don't want a truck to drive into that and go into the lake. So we found out that the contractors who hasn't ordered the current railing system says it would be approximately 350 per linear foot at 138 feet. It's approximately about $48,000. We estimate the structural engineering costs and the redesign and sending it up to FDOT, which is the Florida Department of Transportation, would be another $17,000. So a rough estimate in costs is about $70,000. The thing always comes up about, will this delay the project? Obviously, I asked everyone I could on that. The contractor says, if you give it to me right now, it wouldn't delay the project because I haven't ordered anything. But it all goes back to how long is it going to take me to get the structural engineer to redesign it, because he has to redesign that part of the bridge. He has to send it to FDOT, which is Florida Department of Transportation. It has to get approved. And at the same time, I can have, hopefully, the contractor prepare a contract change for an estimate. So I can't tell you that it will not extend the project, but I think you have to vote on it now because, you know, you just can't wait another month. But that is something we're looking at. I don't know if it exactly would look like that. It is more aesthetically pleasing, 100%. It costs a lot of money and it might delay the project. So that's my summary.
Talk to us about cost. Is it an unknown?
No, that's what I'm saying. Those costs are my best estimate right now, about $70,000.
Okay.
Do we have the funds?
The funds will come from reserves because, and we don't have a lot of reserves. We don't have a lot of debt. We're not in a bad situation. But as you know, this whole project is going to take out about almost $500,000 to $1 million of our reserves. We don't know exactly because we're going to propose that at the end of this year. We're going to do a budget amendment. We're going to propose, and you guys got to vote on it, but we're going to propose to take money from the surtax money that will be ending next year, but we have like $800,000 in there. So that will supplement some of it. We talked about maybe taking some money out of CRA if possible, but that looks like less likely now. But the surtax money, definitely that money could be used for this, plus the reserves.
Didn't we take some reserves from this previous budget year?
For the bridge?
Yes.
No, we said it's going to happen. It just didn't happen last year. It's going to happen this year, this fiscal year.
So we didn't pull the funds last year, which would have helped.
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
If you would have pulled the reserves from last year, that would have given us some latitude now for our reserves.
No, it's just, we have basically, we took a loan out for about $800,000. We have that money. We have a $600,000, thank you, appropriations from your predecessor. We appreciate that, from the state appropriations. And then after that, that 1.5 million is the project's 2.5 million. So that $1 million is what we're talking about.
Just thought that when we talked about it last time, it was prior to the ending of our last fiscal year. I thought we were using some of our reserves.
It was, thank you, because it was confusing because we don't know when the project is actually going to be expended. It wasn't expended last year before October 1st. So now it will be expended this year. So I didn't know the timing of it. I do know the timing is going to happen this year, this fiscal year.
And did I hear you correctly? That isn't even necessarily what that's not actually the railing. It's like a maybe railing photo.
This is right there at Donald Ross Road. It's a very big Basque bridge. I'm very familiar with it. It's a county bridge. It's not a state road. It's a county road. So we think we can, they said we think we can do it, but you never know what they're going to say. Well, change that, change this. Who knows?
Go ahead. Okay.
I saw a similar design on PGA Boulevard, that same type of green. It's the railing. It's a safety issue. I know it's not just aesthetically pleasing. It has to meet the strength standards. That's why it's got to go through the engineering process.
Right.
But I've seen it already in Palm Beach County on PGA Boulevard, and it's very similar. Obviously, this is a rendering. It's not our bridge, so they can't do an exact rendering, but I believe.
That's a photograph, not a rendering.
But that's that particular bridge. That's what.
Yeah.
It would be that style. That's not going to be exactly what it looks like, but it'd be that green, dark, sturdy railing. I believe.
Probably not going to have the brakes.
I'm familiar with the PGA Bridge too, also a county bridge. So again, state, county, don't know if they're going to have a little bit of a different standards. We're going to go for that. If you give me permission, I'm going to go for that look.
I think it's very attractive, and I applaud you for doing the research and coming up with this this photograph. And just as a reminder, a year from now or 9 months from now, we're all going to be standing in front of this, cutting a ribbon. But this is a bridge that Taylor's 4-year-old, Taylor's future grandchildren will be using this bridge. We're talking about, something that's going to be around for 60 or 70 years. If we can spend an extra $50,000 or $60,000 to make it attractive, to me, that's a no-brainer.
That's the discussion Joe and I had today, not to mention all of the beautification that's going to be going on in the parks as well.
Yeah.
So my opinion is, I can't make a motion, but I agree. While we're doing it, do it. Get it done and be done with it. If that's what everybody decides they want to do, just do it, pull the trigger. They're there. It'll cost you more to have them come back, even though the change order is still an expense, still has to be approved, has to be engineered, all those things that must occur. But still, it would cost more if you decide you get it in there and you see these beautiful parks that we have and you're like, oh, Lord have mercy, that bridge is just, I can't do it.
A sore thumb. Are we okay financially?
That's a discussion I had with John. Me and John always go over those numbers. Again, that's why I put in that point of the state looks at a guideline of, and it's not even the state, it's generally accepted county principles that you should have 2 months of reserves. And we calculate that roughly at $800,000, John and I today. So we're going to get close to that number maybe in a couple of years. But the state looks at also in general accounting procedures, if you stay at that level for a long period of time, we're funding a major project. So that is when you use your reserves. It's exactly, you don't use it on salaries or operating costs. You use it on projects. That's what reserves are for, and for unexpected needs. But so I don't think we're going to be, I would tell you, obviously, if we're in financial, this would be a financial problem. I just don't think we have a ton of money. And we'll talk about pensions later. But
Well, that's something you wouldn't go to your reserves.
That's correct.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to pursue this aesthetic look, not only financially, but for future generations. I think now's the time to do it. And exactly reiterate what Joe just said, that this is the time to get into reserves. We are funding a major project, and we still are within our fiscal responsibility of staying in the reserves of the 20%. So I can make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Nay.
Opposed?
I would like to say this. While I did not vote for the bridge to begin with, because I thought we were physically, it was a bit of a stretch physically, and so I voted no then for the bridge. But as the mayor alluded, the money's already spent. And I think the people of this town, after you look at the total project spent and they come to that bridge 5 years later and they're like, this bridge costs what? And they're like, this thing looks terrible. I could have did this with my kids. Like, and then it's like, oh gosh, you're right. That does not look very good. And then you have to do a change order and update it and make it look nice. So going through the numbers with Joe, I was like, well, gosh, we've already spent the money. I look kind of like an idiot saying, no, we don't have the money to the bridge. And then now I'm like, hey, let's spend the extra $100,000 and get the nice green bars on the thing and make it look nice. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things, as you said, this thing's going to be there for a long time. And that's where we're at. So I didn't vote against, I guess I'm going with this thing, but do I feel shaky in my boots here with this physical responsibility as a fiduciary like Joe. Woof. But I think that, man, we don't want to look at this thing 5 years from now. And
This is a centerpiece
disappointed.
coming into the town of Lake Clark Shores
I
as
think
well.
aesthetics are all personal opinion too. I don't personally have a major issue. Like it's this horrible eyesore. I appreciate that you do, but I didn't vote. I also was apprehensive about voting on this project originally. I didn't vote on this because I felt it was an ugly bridge. I voted on doing this project because there could be safety issues coming down the line. And that is a priority for me. I want a safe bridge for my child to play on. I don't really care if it's pretty. Of course, this is a bonus, but I just would like to, we're like struggling to pay for paving streets, but we're, or giving us a slogan or a new logo for the town. I really want to stay focused on some of the priorities our residents have expressed to me are their priorities as well. And until we can pay for those things, I'm going to have a hard time saying yes to something like this.
So, Mr.
vote's
Vice
okay.
Mayor, do I take that as a yes or a no? Because it's 4 to something. So you just tell me the word and we're going to move on.
Gosh, Commissioner, she just made a valid point. And, but I've already spoken to Joe about the roads and the money and that is coming up. And so we do have a plan for that. So I'm going to go with a yes on the bridge.
Okay, carries 5-0. Representative Tendridge, just so you know, we were awarded. Oh,
4-1.
Yes, I was.
4-1?
You just said.
I was a nay
Yo,
for the record.
Oh, okay.
No.
your son doesn't want to go on another. All right,
As long
4-1.
as there's not a safe
We
bridge.
were awarded an
grandson.
additional $250,000, but it was vetoed, which is
There you go.
highly unusual because we already were awarded the 600,000. We've had to deviate from the initial plan, which was to leave one lane open and do it like that, but the costs were just so exorbitant. And I think we ended up only getting two bids on it.
Mhm.
We couldn't find anybody to bid on it. And it was over, so that's part of the reason. They never did give us the money, but they did award it and it was vetoed. So, all right, let's move on to new business.
Let's do it.
This is the-
Update on the road paving and maintenance plan.
Okay. Last meeting again, Taylor asked me a great question, which was, do we have a road plan? And I had to say, no, we really don't. Our plan was don't pave a road that's going to be wrecked up by septic to sewer. Avoid those for now. So
That conversation's been going on for 6 years. right?
exactly. So We have incredible staff. That's all I could say. I got to compliment staff right here because I told them the issue. We have weekly staff meetings, and I told them the issue of if we go out and we get an engineering firm to do a road paving study, it's going to cost us tens of thousands. I'm very familiar with a plan. As you can see, I included it on page 2 and 3 of your memo. It includes about scoring road conditions, safety hazards, traffic volume, conditions of roads. It analyzes data. It displays it on. It goes to the stakeholders. We look at a multi-year plan. I mean, all of this, when you send that to an engineering firm, it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. So the good news is the staff's incredible, and they said, we can do it. Let's do it. And so what I'm here to say is we already started, and it's based on GIS, which is GIS is a Geographic Information Systems. Everybody calls it GIS. It's used throughout the whole world. And what it is a base map. So to explain it to everybody in practical terms, it's a base map, and then you put layers on that map of showing where our fire hydrants are, where our important valves to shut off in a water break, as the fire department uses GIS all the time, where sewer lines are, so it is even used for crime, believe it or not, for where hotspots are in crime. So this is GIS, and it has a module for road maintenance. So our great staff, again, I'm going to say it 5 times because I'm very proud of them. They said, let's try it. Let's not spend the tens of thousands of dollars. Let's try it. So what they did is we worked with them, and they said, we'll start on Westlake, and you can see we already assessed 3.9 miles. Obviously, that's not the whole town, but you can, I'm not allowed to touch the mic, the mouse. Pine Tree Lane, thank you. Okay, thanks. I'm not allowed to touch the mouse, but Emily's going to help me here. As you can see, it has areas and colors, so we can go over it, and you can actually click on pictures. So click on a picture, please. And you can see it'll show where the potholes and the condition of the road. Wow. So when this is done, not only will we have on page 2 of this form that I just gave you, it has the six different categories of good versus failed and all this. We will have all those categories of, so you might say, what's excellent condition? What is an excellent condition? Obviously, it's Beta Clark and Pine Tree. We just did it. It'll show that in blue. If you go down a little bit, please, on the map.
I can't see very well.
Okay.
Is this?
Just click it again. Just click it again twice. Okay, now just scroll up, kill that picture.
Is it?
The X on the top there. And then just scroll like Google Maps, just scroll that way. See that blue little area? That's what we just paved. No, the other way. That's Beta.
Right.
Right. You just know what we paved.
With Jen's little white stripe on it.
Exactly. So that, we're not going to.
They removed it. They did remove it.
So with your permission, because we're going to talk about this next budget cycle, I'd like to complete this and put our staff time into it. So this way, when you click on it, you'll say, what's not in good shape? What's in poor shape? We'll click on it. It'll show all the roads that we think are in poor shape. What's in excellent shape? What's in fair shape? And it's interactive. It'll have pictures. So I think we should save the money of hiring a contractor or a firm, and we should complete this project.
Excellent idea.
And clarification, you said Westlake, but you meant Pine Tree.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. Emily tried to correct me. Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Bridget. But we started on Pine Tree, and I'm getting bids on Pine Tree to see how much each section is costing too. I'm working with a contractor right now, but we will have colors for the whole town. And that's.
I think this is excellent and long overdue. And none of us up here are road experts, I don't think. And a lot of people contact us and come to us about the roads and have, their needs for where they are living and the roads they're using most frequently. And this really eliminates a lot of the judgment calls and gives us something to point them towards and respond with. And I think the next steps that come after this are going to be the most important. Now, once we've identified the red,
right?
Yes, the reds to the pinks, what's next?
And thank you for saying that. That's exactly what I was thinking. I want to add, Joe, will the town, will this be accessible, this database, once it's available so that residents can access it? They can kind of see the work that's being done. They can see the pictures, or they can send an email to the town and say, hey, you know, I noticed this picture here for this spot, and send that so we can update that database to show all that data. So
That's an excellent question. And I don't know if I can answer that perfectly, but I'll answer it as I can. They can come in the office and I will show it to them, but I don't think I can put it on the website because it's not ADA approved because of all these pictures and everything. So I would love to, because I don't care. I'd love to be transparent, but we could put maybe some pictures of it, like we're doing here. I don't know. So the answer to your question is I really don't know, but anybody can come in at any time and say, can I look at this thing with you and go over it with you? Sure.
Or also give suggestions.
Or give suggestions. Yeah, they can do that.
So can the town work on trying to figure out a way to get this information to the residents? Because I think it's incredibly important to show the hard work, and staff, thank you so much for stepping up to the call of duty on this thing and making it happen. But I think it's important to show the hard work that the town is doing when they, you know, when you're talking about all these different things and benefits. Well, hey, this is part of one of the benefits of having a great town staff, and these are some of the things that they're doing. And so, you know, I think it would be a great tool for us to figure out a way for folks who don't feel comfortable coming to the office to talk to you about it, to be able to access and see the work that's being done on their behalf.
We'll look into that, but
I couldn't agree more. And also just because it can be difficult for some people to come to the office and do that. And, you know, working hours, we close at 4. I mean, you saw me trying to sign something. It took me like 3 tries to even try and get here. So I just want to make sure everyone,
we'll look into
over communicate this.
Yeah, the problem is, you know, everyone will understand this who has computers, it's software, right? So you don't have that software. So it's not like I can give you, and it's a tremendous amount of data to run this kind of program. So if you had GIS, I probably can do it, but I can't sign you in as a viewer because you don't even have the software.
I don't
You
think
see what I'm saying?
I understand that's probably what you were asking. We have a communications team, a firm that's on retainer monthly, correct?
Right.
I think they can figure out a way to communicate this effectively to the town and give them monthly updates over what's been identified and how people can send pictures and information to you. We don't need them to have access.
I'll be happy to, this is a work in progress.
Yeah,
So
it's fabulous. And
I love the idea, but you can see my issues with it.
Long overdue.
Yeah, if there's going to be a version of it on the internet, it has to be much simplified.
Exactly.
Because your photographs have to be able to be described, and you have to have things converted not just from vision, but to words. And if you don't, then you're subject to a lawsuit for not being in compliance with the Americans with Disability Act. I can tell you, I have advised all of my clients, don't complicate your web page, simplify it, because the more you complicate it, the more you're at risk to be challenged.
We could put this image up, right?
You can put a picture up, you just have to explain it, right? It could be a picture. It's going to be nearly impossible to put this up. But we'll work with you. We'll figure it out. But just so you know, what we were planning is during budget time, we're going to have this up and we're going to talk about all the roads and everything right there live. Hopefully on a bigger TV, because these TVs are small.
And Joe, I know we spoke about this, but I just want to put it out to the other councilmen. We talked about having this ready, this presentation with cost, and having this being ready to present to this council to make a decision on roads. And again, just to be clear, I spoke with Joe and I asked him, hey, if we're doing this, is this going to delay those very areas that need a lot of attention right now? He said, no, we're still working on making sure we're taking care of those areas, but having this ready by June so that when the bridge is done, there shortly after, we can move forward as a council on decisions for the roads and paving and that kind of thing. So I've asked them to make sure that this, while they just started and it's fantastic, I'm sure they got some stuff that they're going to follow through on as a town and work on this, but having this ready for June to present with cost and a presentation, we can make a decision on moving forward with paving some roads.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to give you direction or do we need a motion?
Neither. It just,
It's happening.
unless you disagree, if the consensus to go forward, I'm going to go
that's great,
forward.
and I think June
Well
is
done.
appropriate, and thank you for having that conversation.
Yes, we'll schedule it for June. Okay, sure.
Moving on.
Thank you.
to
And thanks
item
staff. Thanks
B.
staff, because
Thank you.
Thank you.
staff,
Thank you,
'cause
In
staff.
new
That's
business
really
approval
nice
to-
of
one of them's in there. Is Robert in there?
Yes.
Robert, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Approval to rename the town park and recreation department to public works department and hiring one maintenance worker.
Okay,
Mr.
and
Lobello.
as you know, we've been talking about this for a while, and I gave some definitions in the memo. We don't have a public works department. I don't understand why, because public works is basically in every city and every county that I know. And what a public works is it takes care of all our buildings, our roads, our bridges, all our public lands, our parks. It handles waste management, transportation, public safety after a hurricane. So it's general maintenance. We don't have a person or a department, which is insane. So what we do with that right now is we do that with contractors and we do it with utility workers. As you know, we're bringing on 600 more customers for utilities. So this is not something that we can ignore. We need to, in my opinion, start a public works department. We hired a temporary worker in late August because we needed some painting work. We pay him $15 an hour. He's saved us already tens of thousands of dollars on painting and on maintenance. He's doing daily cleanups of the parks. So we don't need department heads, but we need laborers to handle some of these projects. So I want to start this whole process, if you agree to this, to start it off slow, which is step one is just hiring a laborer at $31,000 something salary and $46,000 total with benefits. And the next steps, and we can do that right now without a tax increase because of contracts I've already saved on, which I've been talking about reducing our phones contracts, which is going to save, believe it or not, $20,000 to $30,000, and other things like we do now phone park inspections in-house, and we also changed our emergency management programs. That saved another $15,000. So we have enough money right now just to switch to hire this person within the general fund. And also taking this slow, but our next phase would be looking at possibly should we reduce the contracts on irrigation. We do wet checks on our irrigation system on a monthly basis. Believe it or not, that costs us $30,000. So if we could have a skilled person work with a maintenance worker, we can possibly eliminate that. We also have janitorial services that we have on contract. So these would be step two. But we need step one to have a physical person to clean our parks, to do general maintenance like painting. You know, I'm redoing a building down south at our maintenance shop. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I'm not saying privatization is bad. Privatization using contractors as privatization versus in-house. I'm saying it's a very good tool, but sometimes you have to have a very good mix. And sometimes you go back and forth. I've gone back and forth where I've done landscaping in-house and private. It's whatever the market is giving me. So I'm fluid. I want you to make me fluid so I can save money to the taxpayer. So this is the first step. And that's the motion, is to start a public works department and to give me redirect $46,000.
So we have a motion.
Motion to create the rename into Public Works and start off with the, I say this correctly,
He's a temporary employee.
temporary employee.
To make him a regular employee.
As to redistribute the funds, so it costs us $0 to the budget.
Second.
Second, it seems very fiscally responsible and good business plan.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Thank you.
5-0. Okay, Joe, you're up. You're doing a lot of talking for a scratchy throat today, partner.
I know. The scratchy throat was not planned. I'm going to have a PowerPoint presentation. You guys got a handout in front of you. Is Officer Dominguez wanted to listen? He's got a call or something? Officer Dominguez wanted to listen to this. Is he somewhere? It's okay. There he is. Come in here. Listen to this. Oh, thank you. So she's going to put up the PowerPoint. You guys got it in front of you. Anybody in the audience would like a copy of this? I have extra copies.
Yeah.
If any, would you like, Tony, would you like a copy? And our representative, would you like a
Warming
copy?
out there.
Would you please give out copies? Because I can't do anything. All right, so this is what our goal today is, to talk about the inequities we have right now in our pension plans between the market. In my opinion, you have to be near the market to succeed, and we're not there, and I'll demonstrate that today. Also is to go over how corporate America and governments are different in retirement plans and explain the differences. Because there's, even if you're an expert on retirement systems, if you don't know government, there's a lot of things different, and I'll point those out. But let's start with some definitions. So I have the clicker. Thank you. So what is it defined? There's basically two kinds of retirement systems. One is called a defined benefit, and one's called a defined contribution. So a defined contribution is real easy. It's a 401k plan. So you all know what that is. But what's a defined benefit? It's a pension plan. So what it means is it guarantees a fixed amount of money when you retire. So typically, I like to go through the example of it's a multiplier versus the years of service times your average pay. So, and then there's an example because it's hard to understand. For a police officer, if you work in the FRS, which is the Florida Retirement System, you'll hear me say that a few times. If the multiplier is 3, which it is, and if you work for 25 years and your average salary is $100,000, you should get $75,000 guaranteed for the rest of your life. That's what a defined benefit is. So it's a fixed amount that you're guaranteed at the end of your retirement. Obviously, for general employees, it's a lot less. As you can see where I said, there's even in the same government, there's inequities, and it's a big inequity. For general employees in the FRS, the multiplier reduces to 1.6. You have to work 30 years of service, and for that same $100,000 average salary, which I just picked for round numbers, is only $48,000 versus the $75,000, and you get it 5 years quicker. So that's a defined benefit where you actually are defining what your benefit is. Next slide. Keeps remembering I got it.
Those
All right.
AFCs are based on your best 5 years.
It could be anything.
That's the FRS. but
FRS is 5 years.
governments do different.
Right. I didn't want to get it. Bridget's she's an expert, but I just want to keep it simple. So what is a defined contribution? Defined contribution really simply is a 401k plan. So which is right now, currently, we contribute 9% for all our employees. Doesn't matter if you're police or a general employee, we give you 9%. So you'll see how that is an inequity pretty soon. But it's very, very popular in the corporate world. And it has its advantages. I'm not going to say anything bad about a DC versus a DB. And I'll show you what the advantages are shortly. But in the corporate world, over 85% are in DCs or 401k plans. But it's exact opposite in government. In government, most, if not 80-something%, I don't want to tell you the exact percentages, but are in DB programs. And I'll show you why. Okay, this is a horrible slide. But as you can see, this just summarizes what's the differences between the two programs. And I'll just go over them quickly before we get into the nuts and bolts. But a DB program, obviously, I told you it's guaranteed. You know you're going to get $75,000 after 25 years or $48,000 after 30 years of service if you're a general employee. Now, on the DC program, you're going to have a lump sum of money. You're going to have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in a bank. You can buy an annuity with that. You can just take money out every year. You can pass it to your heirs, which is a big advantage of a DC program, because on a DB program, when you pass away, it goes away. So
Not necessarily.
yes, necessarily.
Depending on what option you go out on.
Not, you're talking DB again. If
You said DB.
Yeah. A DB, you have 4 options in the FRS. One is if you survive yourself, then if your spouse, and then 2 other variations of that. So it never lives after you and your wife.
Oh, spouse, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you get into the nuts and bolts again. We're trying to make this very simple, but like I said, I'm pretty familiar with it. So the risk, this is where we're starting to talk about the nuts and bolts. The risk obviously on the DB is on the employer because he's guaranteed, the town is guaranteeing that money has to be available. So you have to have actuarial studies and all this stuff because it's on the DC program. The risk is to see how much money you have is enough is on us. Because that lump sum money, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, is that enough to retire? Don't know. It could run out. So that is the difference between who bears the risk. Cost predictability. It's way less predictable, and you'll see my examples shortly on the DB program. It fluctuates because of demographics. It fluctuates on the market. These monies are invested in the stock market, believe it or not. This is allowed to be invested in the stock market, and most funds are assumed to make about 7.5% over the long term. Yeah, there's 50-50 programs, which is half equity, half fixed, or you can be as aggressive as 70-30, which is 70% in equity and 30% in fixed. Fixed is like CDs, bonds, and stuff like that. So on the risks, on the predictability, it's very predictable on the DC program because you're just giving 9% to every employee. It's very predictable. It's very easy to budget. So there's a lot of advantages on the DC programs. Okay, portability. If we start our own local DB program, it's not portable. So you can't go from West Palm Beach's police department to Boca to Green Acres Fire or anything. They don't transfer. So you have to stay with that department. Now, on the FRS, it's and I'll show you why, it's very portable because every state and county employee is in the FRS. There's 650,000 active employees in the FRS today. There's about 500,000 of retirees. So there's over 1 million people in the FRS. It's one of the biggest pension plans and well-run pension plans in the state, in the whole country, and well-funded. So it's huge. So it is portable. The DC is very portable. You have a lump sum of money when you work 5 years for a corporation. If you have $100,000 in there, you still have that $100,000. You go to another job, you still have that $100,000. You understand that. So what's the attractions? We just put what we found. Obviously, it's attracting long-term employees, and we want to do that. And obviously, on the DC, it's for people that move around because it's very portable. Administration. On the DB program, am I talking too fast or because I can talk? Okay, you're good. On the DB programs, it's very complex, but there's vendors out there to help you. Obviously, I would be very familiar if we did a local plan, I would help. But you have to start its own board. It's required by state statute. You have to have, you guys pick 2 members. The police department picks 2 members, and the 5th person, I believe, is picked by the other 4, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But you have to have a professional and actuarial to look at the age of all the officers to see how long they're going to live, how the market is doing to get that 7% presumed rate to make up for that $75,000 when they're going to retire. So you can see it's very complicated, but there's people to help you. This board will not be managing the money, but they will be administrating it, which is, they can fire a money manager, they can fire a consultant. So there is really big responsibilities of that board. On the DC, very simple. You get a contract with the vendor, you pay 9%. They get to pick whatever investment they want to put in. They have a lump sum at the end of retirement. All right, next page. All right, so let's talk about the FRS. As I said, the FRS, every state employee, every state trooper, every state employee, and every county employee is every school board member, every teacher is in this program. That's why it's 650,000 people approximately. Some local governments are in it, but not all, and I'll tell you why. And you can join for the general employees and or the police or one or the other. You don't have to. So you can make a choice, and I'll tell you why people do that. A lot of the current trend is they're joining for general employees, and they're not joining for police, and I'll explain why, or public safety. Again, FRS is very portable because there's so many agencies that have FRS. One of the very big negatives about FRS is once you opt in, you can't get out. The only time the state legislature did that is, and I remember very fondly because I did it in our municipality, was in 1996. We opted out of the FRS in a lot of communities. That was almost 30 years ago, so I don't see them doing it anytime shortly. So you basically, if you go with that option, you can't get out of it.
It didn't used to be that way, but now it is.
Now it is, correct. Thanks, Bridget. You can fill in.
I thought you could flip flop back and forth.
Right, but now you made a law, you can't do it. So you opt in, you can't get out. So as I told you, there's a big difference between plans. One is you retire earlier, the multiplier is a lot bigger. So as you can assume, the contribution rate currently is very different. So currently under the FRS, it's only 13.63% to be as a general employee. So that's not that much different when you think about, we're already paying our employees 9%, go to 13%, it's 3%, a 4% roughly difference. It's not that big of a jump. But on the other side, if you go to police, it's 32.79%, the current contribution. We're paying 9%, so it's roughly 24% difference. So if we have $1 million worth of police salaries, you can see it's about $240,000 difference to go to the FRS. So it's a lot of money difference. So why do people not use the FRS? And they use this local plans. Every big department, every big police department, again, not the sheriff because they're required to be in there, wouldn't you? But Boca and West Palm, Riviera Beach, all the big departments, Jupiter, they do not are not in the FRS. And why? Because the big reason is that one in the middle, which is let me go over that one first because it's the big kahuna, is because every person in the state of Florida pays 1.85% on all their automobile insurance. That was called an excise tax. It goes to the state of Florida. Everyone's paying it right now. But if we decide to do a local plan, we pass an ordinance and we tell the state we want that money. So in our corporate limits, we would get that money and to help supplement, it has to go right directly to this plan. On police and fire, it's on property and they get, we don't have police, we don't have fire, but theirs is based on property insurance. So that is why all these big agencies are not in the FRS for public safety, because just figure this out. I'll give you, they will not give you an estimate. I'll bring an expert in and they probably will do the same math as I'm doing right now. But so let's do some math. If we have 1,500 homes and 1,500 homes, basically, I did some math. Where is that math? I'm going to go from memory. I don't see my math, but 1,500 homes. If the average person pays $1,000, just $1,000 in premium tax, right? That is going to be about $20,000 a year and $20,000 to $25,000. But the average person doesn't pay $1,000 for a household for auto insurance. So if it's $4,000, if that's the average, I don't know what the average is, but if 4,000, it's over $100,000 we would get in. So if it cost us $200,000 to $300,000 to run a pension plan for the police department, if we're getting a third of it from this excise tax for free, we're already paying 9% or $90,000. We would only have to come up with the extra $100,000. Does that math make sense to you all? Okay, so that's why. So I wanted to go over the big kahuna first. Now, what it also does, it locally, you can tailor it the way you want. We have great employees that have been here for years. We can make a plan which is a lot more difficult with the FRIs to buy some years. So if our officers that have been here for years, we can say, if you pay us $30,000 or whatever per year out of your 401s that you already have, you can buy some years for vesting. Because there's always vesting when you have a DB. I think it's 8 years now, 8 years. So you have to be in the Florida retirement system for 8 years, but you can do whatever you want. There's some guidelines to get the excise tax. You can't have a really cheap program. You have to have some guidelines on minimums, some thresholds, but they're pretty easy to meet. But also what people do, like the Boca, for example, their officers pay like 10, 11%. Believe it or not, the FRS only requires 3%. So see how flexible it is? You can have the officer pay more of the burden of their retirement. So when you have your own local plan, you can tailor it where they can buy years, as many years as you want. You can change the percentage of what they're doing. So you can tailor it. FRS, you can't tailor it. It is what it is. So what's my last thing is obviously with this independent plan, we're only going to have 10 officers or so. The volatility, especially in the beginning, is going to be crazy. So one actuarial study will show we will have to pay 20% of their salaries. One will show 40%. I can't promise you it's going to be very volatile if we go with this option because of just the amount of numbers of people versus 650,000 that's in the FRS. So that's just a summary of that.
You mentioned about buying time. Would that also be applicable to the military time?
It's whatever you guys decide.
I mean,
That's
a common practice.
That's when if you go with wanting to hear more about this option, we would bring a professional in and would get into the nuts and bolts. But yes, I've heard of that. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is I've went out to every city that I can know in Palm Beach County. No police department except for one has a DB program. Everyone has a DB program. Only two has a DC, which is us and another city. But do you know what the contribution rate on their DC program is in that one city? It's 23%. So they're giving out 23% versus our 9%. So we're not in the market. So if we're going to have officers and grow a quality and professional department, and that's what the chief and Dana and myself's goal is we have to be in the market. And we're not even close to the market. If we're at 9%, the other cities that has a DC program is at 23%, and then everyone else has a DB program. So I think we have to look at this and take it very seriously. So why do some cities like that? I think it's Gulfstream that has the 23%. Why do they like a DC program? Because there's no risk to the employer. They just budget 23%. There's no administrative, really not a lot of administration. So that is an option. Why do most cities prefer the independent plans? Because they receive that excise tax. That's the big, wanted to make sure you knew that because that most people, except for Bridget and I, most people don't know that. That's a big deal. And it's not a new tax on our taxpayers. They're paying that tax right now. It's just going to the state. And it's due to its flexibility. Like I said, we can change their contributions. We can talk about their buy-in on their vesting. It's constantly, we can end it. We can cancel it. So you have a lot of flexibility when you have a local plan. All right. And then obviously, why do people pick the FRS, which there's some out there? It's because it's portable, it's stable, it's easy to administration, and some people use it because they say they recruit better with the FRS. So as you can see with all those members, everybody wants to see an FRS agency when they get a job. So I'm losing my voice. My next slide is, does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Joe?
Very thorough.
Thank you.
Are you able to put hard numbers, pro forma numbers for each of the scenarios as to what it would do to our budget?
Yes. I think the next step would be to bring professionals from FRS and from local plans, and I can supplement that with our numbers. But like I said, if it's FRS, we pay 9, they're at 32. You can see it's a huge difference. It's $240,000. But if we do our local plan, if we get excise tax, it could be half of that. And if we just go with an extra money on a DC program, if we bring it up to 23% like our competitor, our fellow city, it's very easy to tell you those numbers. But I could bring it out into benchmark it against how much of a tax increase would be. You know, we can talk about that.
Any other questions?
So would the consensus be to have the professionals come in and give us a little more education? Or are you very comfortable with his explanation of every aspect of it?
Don't you think that that would be the best way is bring in professionals, let them present,
Yes,
give us some time to feed on it,
that's my next
digest
recommendation.
it,
Yes,
and
yes, to bring
take
in
it from there?
both, bring in
Yes,
an
yeah.
an
Bring in
FRS
Bring
representative.
both sides.
I could bring
Not like we're
somebody,
choosing one to bring in.
no, to bring in a few professionals to get, I didn't want you to just ask some basic I wanted to go over the basics.
Yeah.
So this way we can ask and talk intelligently with the
I don't think
consultant.
there's another option. I think we have to bring in the professionals. to
100%.
really get into the meat and potatoes of it.
Yes.
It's just too complex.
So is that direction that we want to give? Do you need that in a motion or that's just?
Just a consensus.
Yeah, I would say do that. I would say bring in the professionals. Can everybody agree with that?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Present some real numbers to us and take a look at it and see where we go from there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to move on to status reports. Fire Chief, I'd like you to come up and introduce yourself. I don't know if everybody had a chance. I know you're our new chief here. I met you Saturday night. I don't know if you remember me. I looked like I had a white beard and a long hat, and that kind of stuff, but you did say hello to me. Come right up. Pleasure to meet you. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Good
And
evening, everybody. My name is Rob Martinez. I work with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I'm currently the district chief for Battalion 10, which covers this area of 5 municipalities. Started here on Monday. I got to greet some of you at your Christmas event, which was very nice. Our truck 35 showed up and brought Santa Claus in.
So great.
Thank you for having me. Not sure what you guys really entail, what it entails from a district chief's point of view, what you want to hear from us.
they basically just give us the numbers and explain what you gave us here and we're good to go.
All right, so Palm Beach County Fire Rescue ran 28 calls in the last month here in Lake Clark Shores. Their average response time was 7 minutes, 23 seconds. Their average turnout time was 46 seconds, which is really good. I came from Boca Raton. I was a battalion chief in Boca Raton. These numbers are great from what I'm looking at. Response times is 7 minutes and 23 seconds. I know are higher than the normal, but that's all about distance. We can't really control response times. We can control turnout times. Turnout times are basically from the time the tones come in, how long they're already on the road, basically when they go responding on the truck and go out. They're at 46 seconds here on average. Our minimum standard in Palm Beach County Fire Rescues, a minute 30 during the day. So they're basically in that cut in half. Travel time is about 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes. But that's again, depending on the response on which station 39 or station 93, whoever responds here. I'm looking at the numbers for the last few days. Nothing egregious stands out. I don't know if you guys have any questions about it.
Do you see any difference between since the bridge has been closed and prior to and the current? response times?
I do not see a difference, at least for the 20 calls that were dispatched. Again, it all depends where they were.
So you didn't see it from October, November, that big of a change?
No, ma'am. I was handed November's numbers.
Okay, so you don't know October?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so, because the bridge was closed in September, so my background
Mhm.
in fire rescue, so I just wanted to see how it's impacting. I would think more for your transport times and your response time,
Correct.
because I know you come in from
Mhm.
actually from the south.
Yes.
So,
I could bring you those numbers next time
Sure.
and go over it.
Thank you.
That's all.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Any other
Thank you very
questions?
much.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
congratulations. Thank you for hanging in there with us. We do appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you again and we
Thank
look
you for
forward to
having me.
seeing you. Okay.
Chief Adams is still with the department, and she said happy holidays, and she'll come and visit at a future meeting, but she's doing shift work, and she's the chief in many areas. So she's doing great, and she wishes you all well.
Chief Smith, you're up.
Yes, sir. All of you have my report. If you have any questions, feel free. I will mention that our LPR system ran 116,994 tags through the 7-camera system. And of course, we had miscellaneous hits for stolen tags, expired license, no insurance, which is all over. We had another hit on the terrorist watch list. So that information was turned over to the feds. And we have the information on activity on code enforcement. We had some arrests domestic violence, strangulation. Those subjects were booked in county. So you have a question?
Have any questions for Chief Smith?
I have a question. Someone asked me recently about the plate readers. When you come in, like the scanners, do they scan like real time and you like get the updates real time? Yes, okay.
Real.
It wasn't, sorry, there's a Christmas tree in my way. I wasn't sure.
And the officers can have access to that, and also I get a notification on my phone probably within a minute. So I know what's coming through the 7-camera system.
So when you just said it was like a known terrorist threat, like a bad guy that pops up and dings in some way?
You have people on a watch list. They haven't done anything criminally wrong. They're just being watched. And there's thousands. Also, there's other criminal stuff where people are on watch lists to see where they go and where they come. That has a lot to do with the feds. There's a lot of activity in Palm Beach County, a lot of things going on that the general public will not be made aware of, but the police departments, fire rescue, were involved in that intelligence on a need-to-know basis.
Okay, and then my other question was, Mr. Dachi brought up potentially 2 incidents that took place on Forest Hill that he was like attributing to the bridge closure in some capacity. Did you hear about that? Do you know anything about that? Was that anything to do with our shutdown? No. Okay.
No, we actually are, I think our accidents are lower than they have been on Forest Hill. So, but I mean, everybody
I would
interprets
assume
things
so, less
different.
cars going out that way.
But I think a lot of the people adjust their time, have looked at other ways to come and go. And so far it's worked out. I've had no complaints.
I think he might have been alluding to when you make that turn off of Forest Hill into Westlake. There are peak times when it's very difficult to make that left turn. Sometimes people stop, sometimes people don't stop. One person stops and the next person's going, the next 2 are going. So I think that's where he might have been alluding to. I don't know that specific accident or accidents they said.
Yeah, I just thought they might know what they.
We do get some accidents, but if you look at the big picture, there's thousands of other places in Palm Beach County that are more dangerous than Forest Hill Road. And you got to remember, we got 60,000 vehicles coming and going. So you are going to have a few accidents. We average just under 100 accidents a month, and it really hasn't changed any. And I've been here for 24 years, but a lot of times you get people, they get concerns and they talk about things, and you do what you can to try to help them. If it's not a bush or a sign, and you got to remember that those roads, that road is maintained by DOT, the state. So the town has a little bit of input, but the state controls the speed. Because a lot of times you hear people say, oh, we lower the speed, but that's the speed that the state does. And the signs are put up by the state, not by the town.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Mr. Schick?
My report is included in your agenda packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I do want to address the last item on the report, and that's the lien foreclosure. I've been speaking the last several weeks with Attorney James Ferrara. He's a former circuit court judge here in Palm Beach County. He has been working with Melissa Nash, who has Checkmark Collections, and she was doing some collection work for the town. He handles all of her litigation when there needs to be litigation for any type of foreclosure for a collection. And he comes highly recommended by a number of attorneys to do foreclosure work. I would like the town to authorize us to engage Mr. Ferrara and his firm. It's Hinshaw Culvertson to do the foreclosure work. We have 2 matters that have been authorized for foreclosure, as you're well aware. The one matter I expect should be fairly I hate to use the word simple, but it's probably going to be uncontested and therefore should not be complicated and should not be terribly expensive, although litigation is never cheap. But they're ready to move forward and file the foreclosure action right after the first of the year if we retain them.
This is Hayden.
Yeah, this is James Ferrara with.
But Hayden Road, the Hayden Road.
Yes, I'm sorry, Hayden Road, yes. It appears that the heirs have walked away from the property. And that should simplify a number of things.
I have a question.
Yes.
I totally agree with Charlie, but Charlie, can you think we should put a cap in here in the contract?
We can. I'm not sure what that is, but I can certainly talk to Mr. Ferrara and put a cap in.
Yeah, I would recommend a cap. I like caps.
I have no problem with that.
How would we determine a not to exceed?
Even if we put in a $30,000 number, at least he'll give us an update after $30,000.
I was guessing that we're looking in the Hayden Road thing somewhere between 15 and 25.
I guess good.
So then not to exceed
30,000.
30 would be a good number.
Well, he's going to do the other property too, maybe. So I just like caps because
I think we can work with that and
yeah,
and adjust if we need to.
Is that okay with everybody?
When it's foreclosed, will we own the property or will the bank own the property?
All of the existing liens will have to be paid off. In the case of the one property, there's already liens in excess of 250,000. So the town may realize absolutely nothing from that foreclosure because code enforcement liens are inferior to any mortgage liens and any tax liens. In the Hayden Road property, the town can very likely be the owner of the property upon conclusion.
And I know the neighbors would love to see
Yes.
that.
It needs to be done.
Yes.
It's been an eyesore for 20 years.
Yes.
My experience is sometimes you win on these things, sometimes you lose, but you still have to do it.
Yeah, you still have to do it. Can't just let it linger.
Right.
So do we need a motion to move forward on the Hayden Road property or on both of them? And so that not to exceed number would need to be extended if it's both properties, correct?
Whatever Charlie recommends.
You can, it would be for each
Per
property.
Not to exceed 30 per property.
Correct.
Okay.
And I suspect the Hayden Road will be less than that.
Yeah. And that should move pretty smoothly.
Yes.
I mean, they were going to attend and never even showed.
Right.
I mean, if Charlie thinks the range is 15 to 25, do we really want to give them the thought in their head that they can go to 30? I mean, you know what they say, talk is cheap unless you're talking to a lawyer.
You could say up to 30, doesn't it have to be?
No, I know, but human nature is, well, we.
So can we, if that is the case, can that be revisited or once you set a number?
Yes.
Yes, it can be revisited.
Okay, so then maybe we should go at a 25 per. And then if we can revisit it, if we run into, hurdles, I can't make a motion, so.
I like to make a motion to proceed with the recommendation for both foreclosures with a cap of up to 25 per property.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Mr. LaBello.
All right, I'll be quick. Obviously, we have a CRE meeting.
You have more?
Is he still talking?
You need another bottle of water? Okay.
I need the other bottle. I'll be quick. The next meetings are regularly scheduled. I thought the Christmas tree lighting event was awesome. Hopefully you all agree. We'll talk to you about it in the budget time, maybe to leave it there at that site. You know, we'll go over the pros and cons, but obviously security was a lot easier at that site, and the logistics a lot easier for staff also. But the venue's a lot prettier over there. So that's what we're dealing with. The rest you can read on that. Pine Tree, really nothing to talk about. The barbecue, I'll talk about a little bit. We hired and contracted with a band. It's a local country band, so we're gonna have a little bit of difference there. We had some promotions. We're still looking. That's in there. We want to thank staff for that great employee appreciation party holiday. It was a great party. And we're still holding off on the ribbon cutting because we're waiting for it to be totally complete. And the mayor, Bridget, and myself went to the league last Friday and I want to wish everybody, every resident, town council, a happy and healthy holiday season. So
With the boat ramp, wasn't there supposed to be some kind of?
Bollards. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm missing. It's very small, but it's not done yet. But I'm getting a lot of,
What is it?
they're these yellow bollards, so you can't drive into the left side. It's a safety thing. We can do a ribbon cutting before that, but I'm getting tremendous accolades that everybody loves it. So just letting you know. So thank you.
Everything was awesome. Okay, very good. Just real quick, I just one question. So, of course, we're moving the barbecue to a Saturday.
Yes.
I think is going to be a beautiful thing. I really do. I think it's going to work out nice. And that'll be that you'll update the things as we go.
Yeah, we had our first meeting.
Yeah.
We're still talking. We're sending out the donation forms or looking for donations just this week. So it's moving in the right direction, but it's the time change. It's 1 to 4 instead of 11 to 3 or something it was in the
Yeah, it
past.
used to be 11.
Yeah, something like that in the past.
11 to 2.
Right, but we think it's
You've got Sunday now. That's good.
right. So with the band, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Confirming that's February 15th.
Yes, it's the 15th. It's the day after Valentine's Day.
Are we dressing up like cowboys or what are we doing? I'm asking for a friend.
Yes.
I know you're
in
coming
case,
with that.
Yes, we're dressing up like cowboys.
Well, you got a dual theme. You got Valentine's Day and you have the
Is it-
country.
What kind of a
So,
Valentine are you looking for?
You got a
Cowboy?
country.
Cowgirl.
John, you got a red cowboy hat?
You got a black one, but yeah.
That's not a bad idea to promote the country theme.
A contest.
All right, we'll move on to council comments. Christie?
Yes,
Yep.
couple things. As we've looked at a few of these applications for docks and seawalls, I noticed that it requires a survey to be no older than 3 years. I don't think any of these plats have changed in 50 years since we were incorporated. So it seems to me like it possibly an unnecessary burden to spend another $500-600 for our residents to have to update a survey if they've got one that's 4, 5, 6 years old. The property lines haven't changed. So I just perhaps maybe it's something to consider at a future meeting.
Obviously, we talked about this. Thank you for bringing that up to me. And I would have to do some research. We have a procedure. Is it in the code, Mary? Or is it
The
just?
procedure.
It's in the code, correct? I believe it's in the code.
No, she's saying no.
It's not in the code?
I think it's in the procedure itself, not in the code.
Okay, so it's in something, because
Well, I think she's right, but they always come before us when we were on code board too, like the seawall.
right. So it was decided by a council in the past, correct, about the 3 years. So I'll have to do a little research. I don't know if Charlie remembers why we picked 3 years.
I don't, but I can
we-
look back at the
so-
file.
They didn't keep as good records way back when as they do now, and you may be surprised at some of the things that jump up in rear their ugly heads when they redo lines. I'll give you an example. My neighbor, he did it, put in, had his fence put in, everything, goes, hey, the fence is 6 inches on my property. I said, well, it's your fence. I said, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, I'm glad you put those trees where you put them because I might want to move it 6 inches. I'm like, well, move it 6 inches. So then I had something done and I said, who was the surveying group you use? I want to use the same people so we make sure we're getting everything right. I was actually putting in a new seawall and new dock and all of that. And they came out, we used the same one and they gave us different records.
No kidding.
That's a true story. He couldn't believe it. I said, I use the same guy you use, so I don't know what to tell you. So I don't know how they got to the 3 years, but
Paid him a little bit more, I bet.
there's other areas in Lake Clark Shores too. And Charlie, I know you know this, there are these little pockets of town property that are in people's typically backyards that they think are theirs that really are not. And that has come up before as well. So it's just for pools and seawalls and docks and all that kind of stuff. And that's possibly why they had that. You and I had that discussion about that other person.
Right.
That, and I think it's just, I have no preference. I've got all my work is done. I'm done.
Well,
But I agree, every 3 years is,
They're not cheap, you know.
no, they're not cheap.
I think the most prudent thing is we've had an engineer review this for many years, Keith. So I could just ask him, is 3 years pertinent or is it, can we go to 5, 7, you know?
Enough. Yeah,
Let me ask him.
that's, just wanted to put
Because
it
he's
out there.
reviewing it, so he would know.
Yeah.
He's living it.
Is that just per our ordinance or is that like, is it the county?
No, that we created that.
We created that, okay.
Yes.
Because I think in the county it may be 6. Because I have a piece of property
Oh, it
that's
is
in
in the county?
Palm Beach County and I was doing some stuff there and had to do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is for the county, but I know there's a limit, obviously.
I'd like to ask him and Troy can follow up.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to commend Councilwoman Materio for writing a wonderful welcoming letter. It's just great hospitality. I really, that's what Lake Clark Shores is all about. So good on you. And I'd like to also commend all of the residents as I drive around the lake and around the lake and around the lake and around the lake, living on Pine Tree Lane. I want to commend everybody for their fabulous Christmas tree lights. Really, the Christmas spirit is alive and well in Lake Clark Shores. Gabriel Lane's got nothing on us. And I just want to wish everybody here in the room and in town a very Merry Christmas.
Okay. This used to be the Gabriel Lane, Lake Clark Shores. It was even more.
Bringing it back.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Huge.
there's one on Pine Tree Lane about halfway down. The one on Pine Tree Lane with all the
Yeah.
it's dozens of Christmas trees palm trees are wrapped and
It's like a little fantasy.
Very
yeah,
nice.
it's Disney World.
Well, it really is the most wonderful time of the year, at least here in Lake Clark Shores.
Yes, it is.
And I just want to thank the staff. I only heard good things about the new location. So if, I think we're going to discuss that in the future, but I think you guys made it work very well. Maybe a bigger tree, but besides that, everything was wonderful. Thank you all for jumping into action on that paving plan. I think it's long overdue, and I think the residents are going to be excited to know that there is a plan in place for us to execute upon as we move forward. Thank you, Representative Tendridge, and your aide, who I cannot remember your name. I'm so sorry. Joey, thank you. I think you're one of the first electeds to stay the entire meeting.
Yes.
And let us pick on you a little bit and call you up. So thank you. I know you're going to have some hard work ahead of you, and I appreciate you fighting on our behalf. And congratulations again to Officer Martin. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone.
How do you follow all that? I echo all those sentiments to Tendridge and to our staff, especially our staff, also to Joe and his hard work. I think the events that we had this past week have been phenomenal. I do feel that Lake Clark Shores town feeling, and I think we're only going to move forward and make that better. I think we are doing that. I hope that everybody has a safe and happy holiday. Stay safe out there, especially watch the pedestrians on both Westlake and Pine Tree in the early morning. I think there are a lot out there walking, running, bicycling, walking their dogs. Some of them are not well lit or
Yeah.
have reflective stuff on there, so just be cautious about it. So that's even more enforcement about watching your speed. I mean, we all are in a hurry, but not in a hurry enough to, for our safety of our residents. So stay safe, be well out there. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and all the other face that all along with these holidays.
Yeah, Joe, real quick question. The park lighting, I've had some folks ask me about that and where we were in that process. And obviously no lights were going up yet. So I'm thinking, well, that's a January project, or what are we thinking on that?
Well, Emily helped me. We signed it about a month ago, and it was about, and we think it's the polls took about 6 weeks to get in. So maybe in a month we should hear a plan of they're coming in soon.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right.
it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So I know our goal was try to get that up during this
Yes.
early dark hours. But echo the sentiment of the council. I did want to add that it's a great time of year. Be safe, lock your doors, make sure your cars are locked with your presents and all the things. I'm sure Chief's going to talk about safety at some point during this season, but just encourage everyone to be still diligent during this season. I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. So happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, New Year, happy
everything.
Happy everything. Enjoyed it. And residents, thank you for continuing to come and share with us so we can make the best decisions with your support for this town. Thank you. And staff, thank you so much as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'll keep it short and sweet. I do want to say to not just the staff, the police department, utilities department, town hall, everything ran very smoothly as it usually always does. The employee appreciation dinner, the tree lighting, I've had nothing but good feedback. And I would say that most people that were there would prefer it's there. I don't know what the downside was, but I do know it was really much safer there than it is, and probably logistically for staff to cart everything back and forth when you have all your amenities that are right here. So we will be coming up to Tallahassee in the new year. Yes, we will be up there for Palm Beach County Day, and we'll be up there for Legislative Day as well. We appreciate your efforts, Deborah. Thank you, and congratulations to you as well. Joe, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
We'll keep taking small, steady steps. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Hanukkah and happy everything.
Was your decision?
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Wait, we need a motion, please.
Motion to adjourn. Motion.
Second.
Yep, we're in. All of us. You all agree on that one, right? That is 5-0?
5-0.
Okay.